Good afternoon everybody, and thanks for joining me again. This week we're going to look at how to use triads, chord tones and arpeggios to create tasteful and memorable guitar parts. This particular piece is from some session work I did last year where I was asked to come up with some nice little catchy guitar parts in an Americana country pop style. So grab your Telecaster, get a nice clean tone going with a bit of reverb, bit of trem, and join me. So of course in this scenario for me the first step is to map out the chord changes, just like this. So as you can see, we're in the key of A, and we're going from the 1 to the 2 to the 4, 5, 1, and then we repeat 1, 2, 4, 5, 1. Link to the chorus, which starts on a B minor. Now the tempo for this is around 140 beats per minute, so something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But I'm feeling this in a half-time feel, which just helps to give it a bit more of a sense of space. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the first phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And that's played over 2 bars of A and 2 bars of B minor. So over the A chord we're playing the major third and the root, sliding into that major third from a whole tone below. So you could be visualizing this triad here. Your first inversion, A major triad on string set 3. And of course we're carving out that middle note, leaving us with an interval of a sixth between the third and the root. Always very musical sounding. Make sure to check out my Don't Let Me Down lead study in a Motown style, where I go into exhaustive detail about breaking down scales into sixths and thirds, and all of those double stops are typed out and included in the lesson materials for that one. Speaking of which, if you want to get hold of the materials for this lesson, that lesson, any of my lessons, check out my Patreon page at the link in the description, where for a very small monthly cost you get access to everything, including tons of bonus lessons that aren't available to the wider public. Or you can buy this as a one-off purchase at the Gumroad link, whatever suits you best. Either way, I really do thank you for your support, as it's what allows me to keep making these videos. Now staying on the A chord, we play this next. Starting off by visualizing this A major triad here, root position string set 2, I'm taking the top 2 notes, but I'm hammering in again from the 2 to the 3, just like we did 1 octave lower here. Sounds great when you get those 2 notes ringing together. Go back the way you came, bring the root in, but keep everything ringing. You get this beautiful sus2 sound by doing that. Now that's something that again I've spoken about in a lot of depth in my other Americana lesson videos, so do check those out. I'll make sure to link them in the description. So now over the A we have this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then B minor comes along. We play the root, the flat 7 and the 5. So I'm thinking B minor 7. Now at the tail end of the B minor chord, just as we see that D major coming up on the horizon, we're going to play this and let it ring across the change. Now getting open strings involved really adds a lot of texture, it creates that beautiful cascading feeling. If we're looking at this over the B minor, we've got like a B minor 11 type of tonality happening. If we're looking at it over the D major chord, it's like an add 9 kind of sound. Either way, really textural and beautiful. And as the E chord comes along, we're going to do the same thing we did on the A chord earlier, slide into the major third from a whole tone below. So a lot of these 2s go into 3s, and then the root. So literally the same thing we started with on the A, but now over the E chord. So you could be visualizing this E major triad here, first inversion, string set 2, and just hollow out the middle. Now as we see that A chord coming up on the horizon again, we're going to link into it with this little phrase, which immediately countrifies things a bit, doesn't it? It's like the A major pentatonic scale, but with the addition of the blues note. So it's like the major blues scale, flat 3, very country. Speaking of country, we finish our first half of the solo with that very typical country bend. Again, thinking A major, here's your triad on string set 1, first inversion. Just like before, again, grabbing the 2, this time instead of sliding to the 3, bending to the 3. But bar the top 2 strings with the little finger at the 5th fret as you do it. Probably the most common country bend of all. Now going into the second half of our solo, we're still playing over that A major chord, and we do this. It's one of my favourite little tricks. To me it sounds kind of pedal steely, and again it has that cascading feeling to it because we let everything ring. Grabbing the 5th of your A major and then climbing the scale, just an A major scale, but making sure that 5th doesn't go anywhere. So you're going to have to do a couple of hammer-ons, then onto the G string, hammer on from the 2 to the 3 again. And then form that triad on the top 3 strings. Now look what you've got. You've been left with essentially 5 of your 6 notes from an A major bar chord. And then sliding along 7 to 9 on the G, grabbing 9 on the top string. Again, A major triad, right? Hollow out the middle. You're left with that 6th. Then we see that B minor chords approaching again, so we're going to play this. There's your A, and then link straight into that B minor triad on beat 1 of the B minor's arrival. Staying on the B minor, we do a pretty little descending run of double stops. Top 2 notes of a B minor triad, walking down the B minor scale, or the D major scale, same thing. Top 2 notes of the next inversion of that B minor triad, and then just change the B string to make this suit the D chord that comes up next. 10 and 10. And then we reuse one of those hammer-ons from earlier that we did over the A chord, this time on the D chord of course. 2 to 3. And then again a bit of that country blues scale we used on the A earlier. That subtle little minor third, sliding to the 2, and then the root. So B minor, D major. Now as I'm sure you noticed on the opening performance, I provided 2 options for the ending on this solo. I like to do that when I'm sending things in to producers, give them a few options to work with. In this case I had one that was a little country and one that was very country, just to see how far they wanted to dial it up. And this is the one that's a little country. So that's an E major with that very common country bend I mentioned earlier on the A chord. So you're thinking E major triad, bending in from the 2 to the 3 while barring the top 2 strings to get the root and the 5th. Down the E major pentatonic, and then grab the root of the A chord that it now resolves to. And then to close out over that A chord, connecting to B minor, there's beat 1 of the chorus where the vocals come back in. Now let's take a look at that alternate ending that I provided, the one where we turn that country dial up just that little bit further. So solo 2 would still start the same way as it did before, with that lovely climbing, cascading run over the A major, connecting to the B minor triad, but then things change quite a bit. We play this. Where I'm thinking of this B minor triad here, and I'm sliding into that bottom note from a whole tone below, grabbing the top string, so we've got that interval of a 6th again. As we said earlier, always very musical sounding. Pull off to what would be the 9th, B minor 9 kind of a sound, bounce back to that bass note, then bring the root in on the B string, and then the flat 7. Then connect to the D major chord just like before, with that typical bluegrass touch of the minor third sliding to the 2nd degree of the scale. Then over the E chord that comes next, we play this. Now this is where knowing your chord function really helps, okay? So we're in the key of A, E is the 5 chord. Therefore, if you were to extend it, be adding a flat 7, therefore making it an E dominant 7th chord. And we can use that colour to help enhance things as a lead player. So we're going to grab the 3rd and the flat 7, but we're going to pre-bend that flat 7 up a whole step till it becomes the root, and then let it drop down to the flat 7. Now, still thinking E major, we grab this triad here, first inversion, string set 1, and bend a semitone up at the end to land over the change back to the A, where if you think about that, what we're ending up with is this beautiful A sus2 type of sound. Root, 2, 5. Now, to close things out over that A chord, we're going to play another very common country idea, connecting to the B minor chord on beat 1 of the chorus, again where the vocals come back in. So we had this A major pentatonic scale, another one of those really nice bends from the 2nd to the 3rd degree. Keep that bend elevated while you add the 14th fret of the top E string. And you could hybrid pick this, plectrum on the 3rd string, and then 3rd finger picking that top E string. Then bounce back with the plectrum to that 3rd string again, and then bring in 17 on the B string and pluck that with the 2nd finger. Pick the 3rd string and release the bend. Come down the scale and connect to these 2 notes from a B minor triad, just the lower 2 notes. Okay, so just so that I'm leading by example, because I know I get on at you all about this, I'm going to play through with the metronome, and I'm going to do it at a slightly slower speed of 130 beats per minute. So here's solo 1 with that slightly more subdued ending. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And here's option 2 with all the country thrown in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So there you go, just so you can see that I put myself through the very same metronome drip torture. So just to summarise and break down the most important elements in this piece: triads, arpeggios, chord tones, knowing your way around the fretboard and how to map out the changes. For example, A major triads, organising them into what I refer to as triad stacks. Or, for example, your B minor 7 arpeggios mapped out thoroughly through the caged system. And of course, your A country blues scales. Now, as always, there's a lot of elements at play here, but the really important thing to do is every time you learn a new sound or get a new shape under your fingers, immediately make it musical. Go and create something beautiful with it. That's the important thing. It's far better to do a lot with very little than it is to have too much information and do nothing with it. Get hold of a looper, because that's one of the best ways you could ever practice. Just chuck a couple of simple chords down in there and map out your arpeggios and get creative. So let's talk about tone for a moment. For this one, I've gone for a very clean and clear sound, very articulate. I'm using my Emprise Falcon amp, which is essentially a deluxe reverb type of circuit. And I've got the volume set to 4, so it's just compressing a little bit, but it's not overdriving at all yet. I have a healthy dose of reverb on the amp as well as a bit of slow trem. Nothing too intense though. The guitar is my Carl Longbottom T16 fully hollow Telecaster style guitar, and it's naturally very lively and articulate. So in this case I'm getting away with using the neck pickup to give it a bit of fatness, but it never gets muddy. Beautiful sounding pickups. And I have the volume and tone turned all the way up. So do let me know down in the comments below how you're getting on with these pieces, and ask any questions you might have. I'm always very quick to respond. Oh, and don't forget to like and subscribe. It really makes a massive difference to this channel. Okay guys, so as always, thanks for watching. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you, and I hope you'll join me next time for something completely different. Alright, take care.